Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making watermelon soap cubes using melt and pour soap. You only need a few things, most of which can be purchased on Amazon. This is my favorite mold to use. I got it at Walmart for just a couple dollars. You'll also need rubbing alcohol. You're going to need some kind of temperature gauge. I like this one because you don't have to actually put it inside the soap to gauge the temperature. This is my favorite brand of fragrance oil, P&J Trading. You can find them on Amazon or you can go directly to their website. Just chia seeds to add a little bit of gentle exfoliation and the little watermelon seed appearance. These are just a couple of mica powders. You need green and red for this project. These are from Crafter's Choice. And then you need a scale to measure out how much soap you need. From this mold, I need 4.2 ounces of soap. So what I'm going to do is use 3.2 ounces of clear soap and then 1 ounce of white soap that it will be used to color the rind part of the soap. After you get it measured out, you want to cut it up into small cubes and then melt in the microwave at 30-second intervals until fully melted. Melt and pour soap is a great craft to do with your kids, or if you're new to soap making, it's a great way to start out. My favorite one I get from Amazon, and I'll list that in the description below. The trick with using melt and pour soap is that you need to make sure you pour it at the perfect temperature, especially if you're using more than one color or if you're doing a swirl effect. After the soap is melted, you want to add your coloring and your fragrance. Right now the temperature is 190, which is totally fine if you're going to pour it single color soap. So I'm going to go ahead and put my red mica powder in and then stir it until it's fully dissolved. Now as I'm stirring, I can tell that I added a little bit too much red mica powder and I'm not exactly happy with how deep the red is. So I added 4 more ounces of clear soap to thin it out a little bit. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of chia seeds to each mold, and then I'll add a little bit more into the melt and pour soap and give it a stir. This is to give the illusion of watermelon seeds throughout your soap. They're not sharp or coarse, so when you're using the soap, they feel perfectly fine for your hands or your body. You can also use liquid soap coloring, but I prefer to use mica powders as they give a nice shimmer to your soap. You need just a little bit of rubbing alcohol. 91% is best. You just spray it on the top of your soap before it dries, and it eliminates any air bubbles in your soap. Next, we're going to add the white soap to our measuring cup and melt that at 30-second intervals until fully melted. Now this is where you need to pay attention to temperature. If it is too hot, you will melt the red layer of soap as soon as you pour it on, and then you'll get a mixed pinkish color, which is great if you want to do a swirl soap or a multi-tone soap, but for this you want those defined layers. So I'm going to add a little bit of green mica powder into the white. Not so much, I still want it to be very, very light green. And give it a good stir, and then I'm going to keep checking the temperature of the soap. With this particular brand of soap, it's good to pour it when it gets just about to 120 degrees. If you pour it any sooner than that, it'll be too hot and melt the layer before it, but if you pour it too late, you'll get a very thick, gloppy texture to your soap and it won't smoothly cover the layer before it. Before pouring your layer, make sure to spray the previously poured layer that is now solidified with rubbing alcohol so that when you pour it, the layers adhere together. If you skip this step, the layers will separate immediately when you pull it out of the mold. The soap is still a little bit too warm to pour. You can see it's still quite thin, and every degree matters when you're working with soap. So you can help cool down the soap by stirring it, putting it in an ice bath, or just simply setting it aside and waiting. So I'm going to keep stirring it, and then it'll reach the desired temperature, and then we can get pouring it. Now that our soap has cooled, we can pour. Make sure you spray the alcohol before you pour the soap. You just want a thin layer and then reserve the rest of the soap to the side. We're going to add a little bit more green mica to it to get a nice dark green color for the outside rind of the watermelon soap. It doesn't take long for such a thin layer of soap to set, so while I'm waiting, I'm just going to stir this down, and it ends up cooling down too much, so I have to pop it back in the microwave for a few seconds, and then check the temperature before pouring again. If you're curious to see any more behind the scenes or other items that I make in my soap shop, please check us out on Instagram at LatherUpBathCo. I'll list it in the description box below. And we also have an Etsy and a Poshmark. So you want to pour the remaining soap as your last layer. We ran out a little bit on the left one, so he's just going to be a little bit shorter than his right fella. Make sure you scrape all the rest of the soap out, and then afterwards you're going to spray the top layer with rubbing alcohol to get rid of any bubbles. Next, you just want to make sure that you set it aside to cool completely before removing from the mold. And then you slowly peel the edges away and pop your soap out. I really like this mold because it gives a nice shiny texture to the outside of the soap, and I like the tapered edges on the top. I think it's a really unique size, and it's a perfect size soap for you to grip onto when you're using it, rather than maybe a bar soap that might be too big for your hand. I think these are just a really cute, fun summer soap, and you can use any mold or shape that you have on hand. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please remember, if you decide to make this soap, tag me on Instagram at AshleyTMS88 or at LatherUpBathCo. I'd love to see your projects, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like.